Hello everyone, this is Crota giving you a shoutcast between Andead and NotAfraid here on Lost Temple. NotAfraid spawning as the orange Zerg player over here at the 7 o'clock position. Meanwhile, Andead, who more commonly known as Zpux, spawning over here at the 3 o'clock position as the yellow Terran. I believe this is Zpux as my Chinese is kind of rusty, but I think it did say that Zpux was playing under the pseudonym Andead in this particular matchup. Now, this shoutcast and this replay is sponsored by lucomputers.com. Go ahead and check out their website. There is a banner on the homepage for StarCraft 2 tested computers. And yeah, just go ahead and click on that and take a look at a couple of new systems if you are in the market for a new computer. Back over here, Supply Depot, 10 Supply Depot now being laid down by Andead. Meanwhile, over here, NotAfraid, not doing any crazy extractor trick, just going to go ahead and open up with the standard 9 Overlord followed by 2 quick drones, so now sitting at 12 over 18. So he will have an economic advantage momentarily. Andead going for a refinery before a barracks. So a very interesting strategy, more common against Zerg, I believe. Protoss players, against Protoss, you rarely go against this just because an early 2-gate rush, if they do see that you have a refinery before the barracks, really starts to hurt your economy or hurt your army very early on. You can't even get your bunker in time. Back over here, we now have the hatchery and now followed with the 14 spawning pool. So the spawning pool now going down, and we finally have a drone coming out from NotAfraid. So NotAfraid now moving out with that drone. Most likely we're going to see a barracks sitting right here. There we go. So a little bit of a delayed barracks here as Andead now getting a lot of gas very, very quickly. We're really going to be interested in seeing what he saves that gas up for. He was probably going to get into 200, almost 300 gas before he has any real need for it. Actually, no, probably about 200 gas if I'm doing my calculations correctly. Maybe about 150. Back over here, we now have the SCV moving around, so this will allow for Andead to get a very, very early factory. The instant that this barracks is completed, a factory can be laid down, perhaps followed by any sort of Hellion opening and a harassment. NotAfraid now getting a hatchery on this low ground over here as well. And now in comes the barracks followed with a factory. Are we going to get a reactor? Yes, we are going to, in fact, get a reactor there. So reactor going to go ahead and open up. So we are going to see some Hellion play, and we'll see also if he's trying to go for that 1-1-1 strategy where he ends up, after getting those 2 Hellions, going to start training up double Vikings for Overlord pinching. And a very, very nice, strong strategy. It only takes, what, 4 rounds of attack to shoot down an Overlord, and now NotAfraid setting up an Extractor over here. Extractor will be able to stick there for quite some time, as we do not have any units or anything that will be able to lay down damage against armored units for quite some time. And now those Zerglings sitting here, will they be able to make it on up? If he lifts off this barracks, that's going to be very bad news. Zerglings now going to go ahead and pressure and now try to deal some damage towards that reactor. Marines now being double trained, and or one Marine now being trained, and SCVs coming off the line to try to repair this reactor as well. 4 Zerglings now coming on in. Andead, will they be able to run on in? No, as this barracks now going to go ahead and train up that Marine. Zerglings trying to deal some damage, not going to really work as those Zerglings once again back off. So those Zerglings now scampering away. 1 Hellion being trained up at the factory, most likely going to lift off, do a little bit of a swap there, and now we should probably also see a starport after 2 Hellions are being trained up. So this 1 Hellion on this low ground, gonna go ahead and flamethrower that Zergling right there. You got to remember that Hellions do have a very, very slow attack rate, 2.5, so it is fairly difficult to try to kite with those units, as it is, you have to try to pull those units for quite some time. Hellions now gonna go ahead and pop on out with a starport now being trained up as mentioned earlier, and that Zergling down to 8 hit points. Down it goes, and the SCV make that early scouting SCV very, very nicely done. Gonna go ahead and repair this Hellion. So we're going to have 3 full-strength Hellions coming out to do that harassment, followed with a starport. We now have some supply depots being laid down by Andead. Andead doing a great job keeping track of this macro and not really worrying about this extractor over here. All of this running off of 1 gas. So 1 gas, and oh, not doing a swap. Hellions continuing to move around. Perhaps they're going to try to take down some of these other units over here, but we do already have roaches in play. And I think that's one of the reasons why this Terran versus Zerg strategy worked out so well. You force the you force the Zerg player to go roaches, and then as soon as you go roaches, you already have those Vikings if you did that in that swap, and now going for Banshees instead. So we're gonna have opening into a Banshee play, and those Banshees will counteract those those roaches very nicely. and maybe even be able to deal a lot of damage towards those queens. 4 Hellions just still scampering around. SCV on patrol into one position here. It just makes it so that one of the reasons that you see a lot of professional players do this is so that you have a SCV continuing to activate the Xel'Naga Watchtower, and it does not show up as an idle worker. So just a way to make sure that you do not have an idle worker, have them set on patrol right next to the Xel'Naga Watchtower, have them dance back and forth, and that helps you not have to accidentally hit F1 and then pull them away from that Xel'Naga Watchtower. Back over here, Overlord continuing to fly, and now we have one Banshee in the air, Overlord was not able to spot this, and will this Banshee be able to deal any serious damage? That is going to be the real question here. We do have one queen, and in comes this Banshee. Banshee going to go ahead and wrap up those kills. No, now going after those drones. So 1 drone down, 2 drones down, and this Banshee will just get plenty of kills every 2.5 seconds at a time. And now Hellions moving in, and those Hellions all going to get splashed very, very badly there. And will they be able to escape back out? No, not quite yet. Now we have Queens going to get taken down. Down it goes. Transfusion not in time, not enough energy, as this Banshee once again pulls away. The SCV still in the middle of the field, should probably come off the line and perhaps start repairing this Banshee over here. Do we have, yeah, we do have the Tech Lab or the reactor swap now, training up some siege tanks, but no Vikings as of yet. I'm a little curious on why there isn't any Vikings, as Overlord, Vikings love to go Overlord hunting. Very, very strong strategy, as now we are training up some Marauders as well. Marauders are a good counter towards those Roaches. If those Roaches, excuse me, if you have those concussive shells, you can kite those Roaches for a very, very great distance. Roaches, however, do have a decent movement speed on and off that creep, and as soon as you get the movement speed upgrade, are we at tier 2? We are in fact at tier 2, but we are not getting the movement speed upgrade just quite yet. So no glial reconstitution and no ability to burrow. Increasing the regeneration rate of Roaches while they're burrowed. Overseer now coming in, and that Overseer taking a couple of shots from one of those missile turrets, and another Overlord getting killed over here. So a little bit of a misplay, and now we have a Contaminate on top of that factory, so that Hellion going to take an additional 30 units of time to build. And so a total of 60 units of time, doubling that whole entire production over here. SCV still dancing back and forth, as we now have a Banshee wanting to take down that last, unable to take it down. And that Creep Tumor now coming in, and those, wow, a large number of Hydralisks going to be able to come in and now snipe down that one unit as well. This poor Creep Tumor bleeding to death. No, I guess bleeding, but that creep will be enable it to continue to repair. Back over here, army-wise, we have 1275 for NotAfraid, and Andead sitting at 900 production, getting an extra command center for that natural expansion. We are getting the Groove Spines, and we are getting the Glial Reconstitution, so it's going to be Roach Hydra. And Roach Hydra also a very, very standard, very strong unit combination. Roaches, Hydras on creep are faster than Roaches, but as soon as we get the movement speed upgrade, Roaches will be faster on and off creep. And Roaches having a movement speed at 2.25 plus 6.7. I'm not going to do the math, as Hydralisk now going to try to come on in, perhaps take down that Overlord. Down goes one Overlord, and will these Vikings be able to, going to go ahead and drop into that ground mode, and now go back into that air, perhaps try to snipe this Overlord once again. That Overlord is quite far away. Hydralisk do and now have that level 6 range upgrade, and now there's 4 Overlords moving out for NotAfraid. Those Vikings gonna have a very, very bad day. Get that Viking, last Viking snapped or sniped. No, down at 17 hit points, able to escape, and now more Roaches. So army of NotAfraid sitting very, very large now. You can see unit combination sitting at 11 Hydralisks and 9 Roaches. So a fairly decent sized army. Back over here, Andead sitting at Marauders, also having 2 siege tanks. Is fairly well defended and should be able to continue to push on out very easily. Viking now returning home, most likely going to get repaired. Overlord now in the air, dropping creep, making it so that the Terran player cannot lay down an expansion there until quite some time after that Overlord dies. Changeling now moving on, making its way on into that base. The Changeling is quickly being revealed by that siege tank, because the Changeling did not see the missile turret up on that high ground. It was still a Changeling, and that's why the siege tank was able to spot it and snipe it down. Creep Tumor once again being laid down. Hydralisk moving very, very quickly on that creep with 3.37 movement speed. And those Roaches now also at 3 plus an additional point now, so almost a 4 movement speed. Very, very nice movement speed, even almost faster than Hellions, or as fast as Hellions. Hydralisk and Overseer continue to move around. We'll see what exactly NotAfraid's going to be doing. NotAfraid doesn't want to try to press on into this Terran base with just Hydralisk and Roaches. Any siege tanks along this high ground will simply be able to devastate all of these Hydralisks. Hydralisk very weak to siege tanks in StarCraft 2, more so than in StarCraft 1, as the siege tanks now deal 50 normal damage. Yeah, anyone who is coming from StarCraft 1 knows that there is no longer explosive damage types or concussive damage types. But I digress. Back over here, Vikings continuing to do a great job, and now a siege tank sieging this back ledge and doing a great job here. And now with that Viking support is going to have a fairly difficult time trying to do any additional pressure. Siege tanks can probably stair step their way in and start trying to take down some of these Hydralisks. Hydralisks have to get within range first, and there is an Overlord coming in, but that Overlord is going to get shooed away by that Viking. So siege tank just outside of that sight range of that main hatchery over here. But we have a drone now being transferred over here, the natural expansion, or to the natural starting location at the 8 o'clock position. So NotAfraid will be able to set up an additional base, and Andead now in trouble, as Andead is only running off of one base. Unless Andead sets up another base of his own, he will be far behind, sitting at 44 harvesters compared to NotAfraid's 59. Siege tanks not really getting within range here. Not quite sure what exactly the strategy of Andead is. Perhaps another siege tank even along here can get within the sight range of that hatchery and be fairly difficult for any Hydralisk to get within that groove spine range of the siege tank. Now we have this hatchery not yet fully saturated, but still getting a lot of minerals off of a dozen drones. No queen being trained up over here, so no way to really increase the production. And now getting banelings, so banelings being morphed in. 13 banelings in this army for NotAfraid. Here you see Andead at 3750 versus NotAfraid's 3150, as more marauders and marines coming into position over here. We have a starport, we have a factory, a lot of barracks here, one with a reactor training up marines, and then we also have 2 with tech labs or 3 with tech labs still training up marines instead of training up any marauders. And also we're sitting at 121 over 122 over 174 food, and both players just dedicated to playing Sim City at this time, trying to build that stronger army. Hellions much weaker through Hydralisk now that their range has been nerfed from 6 back down to 5. So that is a heavy hit towards that towards those Hellions. But now Banelings are going to roll on in and just start splashing and dealing a lot of damage. We also have Roaches in the ventral sacks of some of these Overlords, and this push, gonna lose a very crucial 8 food off of that one Overlord, and now Roaches coming on and gonna go ahead and start dropping, and Andead doing a great job pushing in with this whole entire fight. Andead now moving out some SCVs. SCVs gonna most likely take a lot of splash damage from his own siege tank, and more of these siege tanks taking so much damage. Oh, nice, crazy splash amount of damage on top of that SCV, and down it goes. We do have some more Overlords sitting here. Not quite sure why these Overlords are just continuing to sit in this position, as NotAfraid losing a lot of Overlords just very needlessly, down to 33-29 hit points, and those 2 Overlords are able to escape, but now upside down on food. Supply lock at 106 over 100. Stay tuned for part 2 of this replay between NotAfraid and Andead, or Zpux, here on Lost Temple.